From 2000 to 2014, Nigeria was one of the few hubs of economic growth on the African continent. Despite political instability, violence, and a myriad of security threats, the country would exhibit around 7% of growth in its economy. The figure plateaued after 2015 and soon turned into a downhill trend altogether. Let's take a look at the grim answers to the what, who, why, when, where, and how of the Nigerian economic decline. After a long stretch of years that saw African people's hopes tethered to Nigeria, the country that was once a beacon of economic hope in the continent has been grappling with a scary economic roll downhill. In 2023, the country's GDP grew by 2.9%, down from 3.3% in 2022. This is a far cry from the double-digit growth rates the country experienced in the early 2000s. Nigerians have witnessed bolstered inflation, an unemployment crisis, and a depreciating currency. Heavy depreciation of the Nigerian naira against the US dollar has made imports pricier than ever, catalyzing inflation. For context, the fall in GDP is contrasted by an inflation rate of 30%, a number many would not have dared to expect even a decade ago. Urban centers of the Nigerian population bear the most evidence of economic decline. These include Lagos, Abuja, and Port Harcourt have seen a surge in layoffs and unemployment since everyone is cutting budgets. The agricultural industry has taken similar hits, and rural areas have also been affected, but conditions there weren't all that great to begin with. In the event of such crises, many information channels try to paint a scenario where society as a whole takes a roughly equal blow from top to bottom. However, groups and social classes where poverty, unemployment, and reliance on small industries are the norm are disproportionately affected. Rising prices of essential goods and services, and the consequent crime and corruption, have made life increasingly challenging for many Nigerians as they struggle to fulfill basic needs. According to experts, one of the primary causes is the country's heavy reliance on oil exports. When the oil markets fluctuate, oil exporting states feel the changing tide a little too close for comfort. When everyone is trying to survive, you can barely expect efficient governance and compassionate service from civil servants. That's not how it should be, but that's how it unfortunately is. Corruption, a lack of planning, and of transparency have all quickly scared away investors. The inflow of funds into the country has thinned out, and whatever crumbs remain can hardly inspire confidence. The Russian invasion of Ukraine in 2022 is cited by some experts as a cause of instability of oil markets all around the world. In hindsight, it isn't out of the question that what really halted Nigerian economic development back in 2015 was a similar global conflict. In September 2015, Russian armed forces intervened in the Syrian civil war on the side of President Bashar al-Assad. But that's a topic for another time. Government departments in Nigeria had little foresight to create some cushioning for their people when they had the chance. While factors of the decline specific to Nigeria had been accumulating for a while, we can consider the Ukraine invasion a sort of last straw. Alternatively, you can think of it as a downhill force that just speeded things up when they were already deteriorating. The 2008 global economic collapse spared very few nations worldwide. The coronavirus pandemic didn't help either. An entire planet experiencing inflation means nations who have the least marketable resources are going to feel the effects first, but they won't be the only ones. In broad strokes, bad economic and social policies are often blamed by experts. But looking at very recent history, the Nigerian economic collapse shows close relation with the global oil prices. This is indicative of a lack of diversity of trade and exports. Perhaps the turn of fate where things went wrong for Nigeria is a common misdirection we see in many underdeveloped nations of the world. When an influx of capital is visible, as for Nigeria between 2000 and 2014, ruling classes make use of the statistics to gain political influence, but fail to channel it into coffers where public well-being and trust can be nurtured. Anti-corruption measures are easily bypassed by these people, and, for better or worse, the people are too busy breathing sighs of relief to see how their present and their future could be even more prosperous and secure. Nigeria isn't alone in its problem with corruption and poor administration. Time and again, governments all over the world have shown how every anti-corruption rule and law has its workarounds. The sole solution might lie in protecting freedom of speech in the public and establishing the sanctity of transparency in the government departments. Secondly, the Nigerian government would do well to secure and incentivize trades that aren't as closely linked to the petroleum industry. Examples are cocoa exports, agriculture and mining, and digital exports. It may be a long shot to expect a societal shift towards manufacturing businesses, but it's not out of the question. Manufacturing enterprises are recognized as a surefire way for any society to rid itself of the plight of unemployment. Speculators aren't very wrong about Africa. It's hardly a coincidence that some of the most resource-rich regions of our planet are so often plagued by turmoil that seems to feed on itself, causing loss of innocent lives and poverty and starvation for survivors. There is no question as to whether the good people of Earth want to see all of these places free and prosperous. The people have our prayers, and all of us wish the world's governments would come together to help out the people of Nigeria and of other places struck by similar crises.